The wedding ring hit the chocolate mousse with a soft plop, sending droplets of cream across the white tablecloth, like at a crime scene. The conversations around our table stopped instantly, 40 pairs of eyes locked on the golden band, slowly sinking into the dessert. "Jack," Clara whispered, her face flushing crimson. "What are you doing?" I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment like fine wine. The Brookfield Arts Foundation's annual charity gala had just become infinitely more interesting. Around us, Maine's social elite sat frozen, forks halfway to their mouths, waiting for my next move. "Making a statement," I said, loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear, "about the state of our marriage." Clara's hand shot across the table, her manicured nails digging into my wrist. "You're drunk. Stop this right now." But I wasn't drunk. I was clear-headed for the first time in months, maybe years. The fog of denial had finally lifted, revealing the ugly truth I'd been too blind to see. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, standing slowly. My chair scraped against the floor with a sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. "I'd like to make a toast to my beautiful wife, Clara Travers, director of the Brookfield Gallery." Clara's eyes went wide with panic. She knew what was coming. "To Clara," I continued, raising my wine glass, "who's taught me that marriage is like art. It's all about interpretation. Some see love and commitment. Others see an opportunity for creative collaboration." The silence stretched like a taut wire. Then Margaret Whitmore, the foundation's president, cleared her throat. "Jack, perhaps you should sit down," Clara hissed. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Am I?" I smiled, feeling the weight of months of suspicion and humiliation lifting from my shoulders. Or am I finally being honest about what everyone in this room already knows? I could see Derek Sloan 3 tables over, his handsome face pale as winter moonlight. Our eyes met across the room, and I gave him a little wave. His jaw tightened. "You see," I continued, my voice carrying easily in the hushed ballroom, "I've been doing some research into the gallery's recent acquisitions. Fascinating stuff. Really opens your eyes to the creative process." Clara stood abruptly, her chair toppling backward. "We're leaving. Now." But I wasn't finished, not even close. "The thing about art," I said, still addressing the crowd, "is that it's often about deception. Perspective, making people see what isn't really there. My wife is quite the artist in that regard." The whispers started then, rippling through the crowd like wind through wheat. I caught fragments. "Heard rumors? Derek Sloan. Poor Jack." Clara grabbed my arm, her nails drawing blood through my dress shirt. "Get in the car. We'll discuss this at home." "Will we?" I laughed, the sound harsh in the elegant ballroom. "Because lately, you've been having your discussions elsewhere. Haven't you, sweetheart?" That's when Derek made his mistake. He stood up, probably thinking he could diffuse the situation, play the concerned friend, but his movement only confirmed what everyone was already thinking. "Jack!" Derek called out, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "Why don't we all take a breath here?" I turned to face him fully, and the room seemed to hold its collective breath. "Derek Sloan, everyone," I announced. "Art patron, philanthropist, and my wife's mentor. He's been very hands-on with her education." The gasps were audible now. Margaret Whitmore looked like she might faint. The local newspaper photographer, who'd been taking candid shots all evening, suddenly became very interested in our table. Clara's face had gone from red to white to green. "You bastard," she whispered. "The bastard," I said, picking up the ring from the mousse and holding it up for everyone to see, "is whoever's been warming my side of the bed while I've been working 16-hour days to pay for this lifestyle." I dropped the ring on the floor and crushed it under my heel. The sound of gold grinding against marble echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. "Consider this my resignation," I said. "From marriage, from pretending, from being the fool everyone pities behind closed doors." I walked out of that ballroom with my head high, leaving behind a room full of shocked faces and my wife standing in a puddle of chocolate mousse and shattered dreams. The real show was just beginning. The house felt different when I got home that night. Colder, like something had died in the walls and was slowly rotting. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my workshop, surrounded by the half-finished furniture that paid for Clara's designer lifestyle. My phone buzzed. A text from Ed Morrison, my only real friend in this godforsaken town, saw the news. "You okay?" I typed back, "Never better. Coffee tomorrow?" "You got it, brother." Ed was an ex-cop turned private investigator, the kind of guy who saw through people's bullshit from a mile away. If anyone could help me figure out my next move, it was him. Clara didn't come home that night, or the next morning. I wasn't surprised. She was probably at Derek's lakeside mansion, crying into his Egyptian cotton sheets about her cruel, unreasonable husband. Around noon, Ed showed up with coffee and donuts, looking like he hadn't slept. "Jesus, Jack," he said, settling into my workshop chair. "The whole town's talking about last night. Margaret Whitmore called it the most scandalous display in Foundation history." "Good," I said, sipping my coffee. "It's about time this town had something real to talk about instead of pretending everything's perfect." Ed studied my face. "You want to tell me what's really going on?" Because that wasn't just a marriage spat last night. That was a declaration of war. I set down my cup and looked at my friend. Ed had been there for me when I moved to Brookfield 5 years ago, a failed novelist trying to start over. He'd helped me build my furniture business, introduced me to Clara at a gallery opening, even stood up at our wedding. If anyone deserved the truth, it was him. "I've been suspicious for months," I said. "Little things, you know? Working late, new clothes, that smile she gets when she's texting. But I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. What changed?" I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot I'd taken 3 days ago. Clara's phone had been on the kitchen counter, unlocked, when a text came in from Marina, her assistant and best friend. The message read, "Derek's wife is out of town next weekend. Perfect timing. He's so much better than Jack, actually knows how to treat a woman right. Can't wait for you to be free of that loser." Ed whistled low. "Damn, Jack. That's brutal." It gets worse. I scrolled to another screenshot. Look at Clara's response. Her reply, "Soon, honey. Once I get Jack to sign the papers Derek prepared, I'll have half his business and the house. Then we can be together properly." Ed's face darkened. "What papers?" "That's what I need to find out. But first I want to know everything about Derek Sloan. His business, his marriage, his weaknesses, everything." Ed nodded slowly. "I can do that. But Jack, if you're thinking about doing something stupid—" "I'm not going to hurt anyone," I interrupted. "But I'm not going to roll over and let them destroy me either. Clara wants to play games? Fine. But she's about to learn that she picked the wrong opponent." That afternoon, while Ed started his research, I did some investigating of my own. Clara had left her laptop behind in her rush to escape, and she'd never been good with passwords. Her birthday, our anniversary, her mother's maiden name, I tried them all. The third one worked. What I found in her email account made my blood run cold. Dozens of messages between Clara and Derek going back 8 months. Love letters, explicit photos, detailed plans for our future. But the worst part was the business correspondence. Derek had been using Clara to get inside information about my furniture contracts. He owned a shell company that had been underbidding me on jobs, using knowledge of my prices and timelines that only Clara could have provided. They'd been systematically destroying my business while planning to buy the pieces for pennies on the dollar. There were also emails to a lawyer about divorce proceedings, asset division, and something called spousal support optimization. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. My phone rang. Education. "You're not going to like this," he said without preamble. "Tell me." "Derek Sloan isn't just rich. He's connected. His family owns half the commercial real estate in 3 counties. He's on the boards of 6 different companies and has political connections that go all the way to Augusta. And he's done this before. I found records of 2 other businesses that went under after partnering with his shell companies. Both owners ended up bankrupt. Both had wives who left them for Derek. The room seemed to spin around me. He's a predator. A smart one. Always stays just inside the law, always has plausible deniability. And Jack? His wife Sarah isn't out of town. She's in rehab, has been for 3 months. Derek put her there after she found out about his affairs. I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Not just anger, something deeper. Something that tasted like metal and burned like acid. Ed, I said quietly, I need you to do something for me. Name it. I need you to help me destroy them. Both of them. Completely. There was a long pause. Then, what did you have in mind? I'm not sure yet, but they've been playing chess while I was playing checkers. Time to change the game. That night, I sat in my empty house, surrounded by evidence of my wife's betrayal, and began to plan. Clara thought she was smart, thought she could manipulate me like one of her art pieces. Derek thought his money and connections made him untouchable. They were both about to learn how wrong they were. The game was just beginning, and this time, I was going to win. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Marina Kellerman stood on my doorstep at 7 a.m., looking like she'd been crying all night. Clara's best friend and co-conspirator, the woman who'd been cheering on my wife's affair from the sidelines. Jack, we need to talk, she said, her voice shaky. I considered slamming the door in her face. Instead, I stepped aside and let her in. Sometimes your enemies come to you. Coffee? I offered, playing the gracious host. Please. She sat at my kitchen table, wrapping her arms around herself like she was cold. Jack, I'm sorry. About everything. Are you? I poured 2 cups, studying her face. Marina was attractive in a sharp, predatory way, all angles and ambition. She'd never liked me, had always treated me like I wasn't good enough for Clara. Or are you here because Clara sent you? Clara doesn't know I'm here. Marina accepted the coffee with trembling hands. She's furious about what happened at the gala. She and Derek are talking about pressing charges. For what? Telling the truth? For harassment, defamation. Derek has lawyers, Jack. Good ones. I sat across from her, close enough to see the fear in her eyes. And you came to warn me out of the goodness of your heart? Marina looked down at her coffee. I came because I'm scared. Derek isn't who we thought he was. We? Clara and I. We thought he was just a rich guy having a midlife crisis. Harmless fun, you know. But last night after the gala... She shuddered. He was different. Angry. He said things about you, about what he could do to you. It wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. I leaned back in my chair, processing this. What kind of things? He knows people, Jack. People who can make problems disappear. He said you humiliated him in front of the whole town and that there would be consequences. Is that a threat? It's a warning. Marina met my eyes for the first time since she'd arrived. I may not like you, but I don't want to see you hurt. And Clara, she's in over her head. Derek's not just using her for sex. He's using her for information, for access. When he's done with her, he'll throw her away like garbage. I studied Marina's face, looking for the lie, but she seemed genuinely frightened. Why should I believe you? I asked. You've been helping them plan this for months. Because I found something. She reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. Derek left his laptop open at Clara's apartment yesterday. I copied some files before he came back. I took the drive, feeling its weight. What's on it? Financial records, business plans, and files on other women. Jack, Clara isn't his first target. There are at least 6 others over the past 10 years. All married to successful businessmen, all ended up divorced and broke, while their husbands' companies got absorbed into Derek's empire. The pieces started falling into place. Derek wasn't just a cheating husband. He was a professional destroyer of lives. "Why are you giving me this?" I asked. Marina's laugh was bitter. "Because I realized I'm probably next. Derek's been asking me questions about my personal life, about my finances. I think he's already planning to replace Clara." I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. What I saw made my blood boil. Spreadsheets tracking my business contracts, personal information about my clients, even photos of my workshop taken through the windows. Derek had been stalking me for months, building a complete profile of my life and business. But there was more. Financial records showing payments to private investigators, lawyers, even a few people with criminal records. Derek Sloan wasn't just a predator, he was a criminal, just a careful one. "Marina," I said slowly, "I want you to do something for me." "What?" "I want you to go back to Clara. Act like nothing happened. Keep feeding Derek information, but make sure it's information I want him to have." She frowned. "You want me to be a double agent?" "I want you to help me save Clara from making the biggest mistake of her life. And I want you to help me destroy Derek Sloan." Marina stared at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "What do you need me to do?" Over the next hour, I outlined my plan. Marina would continue to play her role as Clara's confidant, but she'd also feed me information about Derek's movements and plans. In return, I'd make sure she was protected when everything came crashing down. "There's one more thing," Marina said as she prepared to leave. "Derek's planning something big for this weekend. Some kind of public event where he's going to humiliate you. Clara tried to talk him out of it, but he's obsessed with getting revenge for the gala." "What kind of event?" "I don't know yet. But it involves the gallery and a lot of important people. He wants to destroy your reputation completely." After Marina left, I called Ed and filled him in on the new developments. "This is getting dangerous, Jack," he said. "If Derek's as connected as he seems, we need to be careful. One wrong move, and you could end up in serious trouble." "I'm already in serious trouble," I replied. "My wife is cheating on me, my business is being sabotaged, and now Derek's planning some kind of public humiliation. The question is, are we going to fight back or roll over?" "We fight," Ed said without hesitation. "But we do it smart. No more public scenes, no more emotional outbursts. We gather evidence, build a case, and then we strike when they least expect it." "Agreed. But Ed, when we do strike, I want it to be devastating. I want Derek Sloan to lose everything. His reputation, his business, his freedom. And I want Clara to see exactly what kind of man she chose over me." "That's a tall order, brother." I looked at the flash drive sitting on my desk, filled with evidence of Derek's crimes. "Maybe. But I've got something Derek doesn't." "What's that?" "Nothing left to lose." That afternoon, I started making calls. Old clients, business contacts, people who'd known me before Clara, before Brookfield, before everything went wrong. It was time to remind this town who Jack Travers really was. The war was escalating, and I intended to win. 3 days later, Marina called with the intelligence I'd been waiting for. "It's happening tomorrow night," she said, her voice tight with anxiety. "Derek's throwing a private party at the gallery. He's invited everyone who was at the gala, plus some journalists from Portland and Boston. He's calling it a celebration of artistic integrity. And the real purpose? To destroy you publicly. He's prepared a presentation about your business practices, your marriage, even your failed writing career. He wants to paint you as an unstable, jealous husband who's been harassing him and Clara." I smiled grimly. Derek was playing right into my hands. "What about Clara? Is she going along with this?" "She's having second thoughts. I think she's starting to see Derek's true nature, but she's scared, Jack. She thinks if she backs out now, she'll lose everything." "She's right. She will lose everything, but not the way she thinks. I'd spent the past 3 days preparing for this moment. The flash drive Marina had given me was just the beginning. Ed and I had been digging deeper into Derek's business empire, following the money trail through shell companies and offshore accounts. What we'd found was enough to bring down not just Derek, but half the corrupt businessmen in 3 counties. "Marina, I need you to do exactly what I tell you," I said. "Can you get me into the gallery before the party starts? I have keys. But Jack, if Derek catches you there, he won't. Trust me." That evening, I met Marina at the gallery's back entrance. She was nervous, constantly looking over her shoulder as she let me in. "You have maybe an hour before the catering staff arrives," she said. "What are you planning to do?" "Something Derek will never see coming." I'd brought a small bag of equipment, nothing illegal, nothing that would get me in trouble. Just some basic electronics that Ed had helped me acquire. While Marina kept watch, I got to work. The gallery's sound system was sophisticated, designed for presentations and speeches. It took me 20 minutes to make the modifications I needed. When I was done, the system looked exactly the same, but it would do much more than play background music. "Jack," Marina whispered from the doorway. "Someone's coming." I finished quickly and slipped out the back just as Derek's Mercedes pulled into the parking lot. Phase 1 was complete. The next evening, I dressed carefully, my best suit, the one I'd worn to my wedding. If this was going to be my final performance in Brookfield society, I wanted to look the part. Ed met me outside the gallery at 8 p.m. The party was in full swing, visible through the large windows. I could see Clara in a red dress I'd never seen before, probably bought with money from my sabotaged business. Derek was holding court near a large easel covered with a cloth, undoubtedly his presentation materials. "You sure about this?" Ed asked. "Once we go in there, there's no going back." "There was no going back the moment Clara decided to betray me," I replied. "Let's finish this." We walked through the front door like invited guests. The gallery was packed with Brookfield's elite, plus several people I didn't recognize, journalists probably, here to witness my destruction. Derek saw me immediately. His face went pale, then flushed red with anger. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded, striding over with 2 large men I assumed were security. "It's a public gallery, isn't it?" I said calmly. "I'm here to support the arts." Clara appeared at Derek's side, her face a mask of panic. "Jack, please don't do this. Just leave." "Leave?" I smiled at my wife, the woman I'd loved for 5 years. But I wouldn't miss Derek's presentation for the world. "I hear it's all about artistic integrity." Derek's jaw tightened. "Get him out of here." "Actually," I said, raising my voice so the whole room could hear, "I think everyone should stay. You see, I have a presentation of my own. I pulled out a small remote control, the same frequency as the gallery's sound system." Derek's eyes widened as he recognized what it was. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "before Mr. Sloan shares his thoughts on integrity, I'd like to share some information about artistic collaboration." I pressed the button. The gallery's speakers crackled to life, and suddenly Clara's voice filled the room, crystal clear and unmistakable. "Jack's such an idiot. He has no idea what we're doing. Derek says once we get control of his business, we can expand the gallery and really make some money." The room went silent. Clara's face turned white as paper, but I wasn't done. The recording continued. Hours of conversations Marina had captured over the past weeks, including some very intimate moments between Clara and Derek, and detailed discussions of their plans to destroy my business and reputation. Derek lunged for me, but Ed stepped between us. "I wouldn't," Ed said calmly. "Not with all these witnesses." The journalists were frantically taking notes. Margaret Whitmore looked like she might have a heart attack. And Clara was staring at me with something that might have been respect for the first time in years. "How?" Derek snarled. "How did you get recordings of your private conversations?" I smiled. "Let's just say you should be more careful about who you trust. Marina's been working for me for the past week." Marina stepped forward from the crowd, her face set with determination. Derek Sloan is a predator, she announced. He's destroyed at least 6 marriages and bankrupted dozens of businesses. And I have proof. The room erupted in chaos, people shouting questions, Derek screaming threats, Clara sobbing into her hands. But I wasn't finished yet. There's more, I said, and somehow my voice cut through the noise. Derek, would you like to tell everyone about your offshore accounts? Or should I? Derek's face went from red to gray. You're bluffing. I pulled out a thick folder and began reading account numbers, dollar amounts, and transaction records. Derek's illegal business empire laid bare for everyone to see. Jack, Clara whispered, grabbing my arm. Stop. Please. I looked down at my wife, this woman who had betrayed me so completely. Why should I stop, Clara? You didn't. Because I love you, she said, tears streaming down her face. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But I love you. For a moment, the room held its breath. This was the moment where the wronged husband forgives his wife, where love conquers all, where everyone learns a valuable lesson about the importance of communication and trust. But this wasn't that kind of story. No, I said quietly. You don't love me. You love what I represented, security, stability, someone to pay the bills while you played at being important. But you never loved me. I turned to address the room one final time. Derek Sloan is finished in this town. His business empire is built on fraud and extortion, and I've given copies of all the evidence to the FBI. Clara Travers is no longer my wife. The divorce papers were filed this morning. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Derek? Your wife Sarah isn't in rehab. She's in my lawyer's office, filing for divorce and demanding half of everything you own. Turns out she's been gathering evidence of your affairs for years. Derek's scream of rage followed me out into the night, but I didn't look back.